Obviously, talking tax tonight, an important part of that is going to the accountant and presenting your documents to the accountant in a way that suits them and that it suits you in terms of keeping those records. So tonight I'm just going to run you through what I do and how I do it. Keeping your own records or record keeping can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to be. I've seen some very extravagant Excel spreadsheets and some simple ones as well. And you might think mine's extravagant or simple depending on what you use. But what I would suggest that if you're keeping records and you've got an extravagant spreadsheet, as long as you're able to use it, as long as it's not an onerous thing for you to do and that it's not something that you dread doing and you make it easy on yourself, that's fine. But don't have something so complicated that you just don't ever want to do it. So for me, the important things that I'm looking for on a spreadsheet is to be able to see my portfolio in a snapshot and see how it's performing, to be able to see my loans, to be able to see what I need to concentrate on and capture the important milestones of those loans, and to be able to see obviously a spreadsheet that I can hand to Jeremy and Munzrel at the end of the financial year and say, here are all of my expenses, and really try and have a simple way to gauge it. I don't really want to spend hours and hours and hours doing it. I've delegated to my wife. The Minister of War, and Finances looks after it. So she runs through it, and she's not into property particularly or into finance or anything like that. But it is something that's simple enough that she is happy to do it and follow it. And we've tried to set it up so it's easy. So it's easy for us to do. So I have a spreadsheet and it's a little bit hard to follow here, but effectively it's got 4 tabs along the bottom of a spreadsheet. And the first one is a simple portfolio document. So basically the front one covers off the properties, it covers off settlement dates, purchase prices, where the current values are, loan balances, LVRs, equity available, rent that's being received, where that rent's applied, whether it's him or her, annual rent and ownerships. So the ownerships obviously goes further when you get into trusts and things like that. And as you get a bigger portfolio, it's obviously important to be able to see where properties are owned and things like that. But that's just a simple way to say when the properties were bought, what they're worth, what the loans are, who owns them basically, and where the equity is. I really like this, and I didn't design this. This was given to me, and I liked the way that it worked, so I adopted it. I like this one because it's got projected values down here, and it's really just a formula where they've got 3% growth for 10 years, 7% for 10 years, 3% 15 years, and 7% for 15 years. And it shows you where the value's going, and then the value less your loans. So when you're thinking, geez, this is painful, you can look down there and go, okay, well, as long as, you know, I've got the carrot, I know what I'm doing it for, so I like having the projected figures down there. But that's just a real basic snapshot of where the portfolio is. The next one I think is more important than where the portfolio is. It's really looking at loans. And I know I was talking to Ross about it, and Ross has got a bigger portfolio, and the idea of building a portfolio is obviously recycling deposits. And you know, you might grab a deposit from this property for another property, and then you might grab some equity out of this property for a renovation on another property. And unless you're tracking where your loans are and where your funds have come from, it's really difficult to kind of track at the end of the year, what do I apply to what property and how do I do it? So this is a simple way of looking at it to say, what loan do I have? What was the property? When did that loan settle? The account numbers, BSBs, what those loan balances are. So it's all different splits and what their purposes were on one spreadsheet, so I can see that. Where your interest rates are at, so what your interest rates are they fixed or variable? If they're fixed, when does that fixed rate expire? So obviously you can quickly see your fixed rate's expiring on this date, I need to do something with that property. Ross didn't talk about it tonight, but obviously in the market, a big thing at the moment is they talk about the interest-only cliff and falling off that interest-only cliff when all your loans are coming off that interest only repayment and reverting to principal and interest. So all of the loans, when their interest only expiry is, so I know you probably can't see it, but this one down here is April 19, and that's the earliest one to come off. So if you're looking at this portfolio and saying, okay, if I need some equity, I'd ideally like to be able to grab it from this property here, because I'd love to refresh that loan and restart that interest only loan again. That's the one to target. So this part of record keeping is about your loans, and it's about knowing where they are and knowing where your rates are at, knowing if you're fixed when they're coming off, and knowing your interest only loans and when they're coming off in a quick, simple snapshot. The next tab on this spreadsheet is really about the settlements. So the first 3 tabs of this spreadsheet you only need to do once, or when there's any changes. It's not like you're in this every month. But this is the settlement figures. So all of these figures are off your settlement letter that you get from the solicitor when you settle on the property, or your mortgage document. So you can grab all of this information from two sheets, and it's there forever. So I know that Jeremy and Munzrel I just give them the whole spreadsheet so they can tab through and see what the mortgage insurance was and when it was paid, because they claim it over a period of time. Jeremy, yes. 5 years. So that's been claimed over 5 years. So it's important that they can see when did that loan settle, what was the LMI, and they break it up that way. Does that make sense? Cool. So this is the working document. So this document really is just your rent that comes in each month. So the way that we do it is we do it once a month, sit down and do this off your rental statements. So what rent's received, what's the interest on the loan, any other expenses. Simply run it through, do it once a month. So this is your working document when you're keeping records. And this is what Jeremy and the guys work off when they're doing your tax returns, to work out overall, what's the overall rent, what's the overall expenses, and it's a good, simple way. And Jeremy, I think this kind of runs in your columns as well, in terms of how Jeremy works in terms of his
It's taken directly from a tax return.
Tax return.
We look at our tax return, we look at your Excel, it actually corresponds.
Yeah, so it's a simple way. So it's trying to make it easy for us, but also easy for your accountant, to make sure that you're claiming everything that you can, and you're actually putting it in the right columns for it. I should ask for a discount, shouldn't I? Yeah. So capturing all the information doesn't need to be difficult, but I think what I like about this spreadsheet is that it's quite simple. You know, I know it looks a lot, but it's actually quite simple to operate, because you're only working on 1 month column at a time. And I've got all of the other information that I can refer back to if need be. So not suggesting that you use this particular spreadsheet, but I'm just want to point out that it's important to keep your records in a way that suits you, in a way that makes it easy for you to do, and it is something that's not overly onerous for you, and something that you're comfortable to do monthly, and make it easy for yourself, and also make it easy for your accountant, because getting the full benefit of the tax deductions is up to you largely, to make sure that you're tracking all of your expenses correctly as well. So I'll just give you one last tip. All of that information, you get so much paperwork as an investor. You get statements from banks, and you get, I don't know if you're getting rates notices directly to you, and you're getting rental statements, and if it's all coming into your own personal or business email address, it gets mixed up in all your business or personal stuff. So I guess a tip tonight to take away is to set up an investment account. So an investment, I would say, get a Google account, a Gmail account, strictly for your surname investments at gmail.com. And then on the back of that, because it's through Google, you can set up a Google Drive. And Google Drive really allows you to just establish folders. So we've just got a folder for each property. So this is just one property. So they come up, so you've got all your properties just in different folders. And then when you click into your different properties, separate it for yourselves where you've got rent coming in, rates, mortgage documents, miscellaneous, insurance, bills and your loan statements. Ask all your managers, your property managers, to send everything to that Gmail account. Ask all of your banks to send everything to that Gmail account, and then just clear that monthly. So certainly as you're going through and you're filling out your spreadsheet, file those bank statements in the appropriate folder. As your insurance comes in, it goes into your Gmail account, pay it, put it on your spreadsheet, file it in your insurance for that property. It makes it really, really simple. And in the day and age, like what Ross was talking about earlier, we're asking you for so much information now to apply for a loan. We want every statement. We want every loan, the last month's statement for most lenders. I could send Ross, and the other good thing about the Drive, the Google Drive, is it's on your phone. If Ross wanted a rates notice, I could send him a rates notice standing here. If he wanted a bank statement, I could send him the last bank statement or loan statement from every loan, because it's all here, it's all on my phone. So in terms of building a portfolio and rolling your eyes when the mortgage broker asks you for more information, make it easy on yourself to be able to collate your own information and pass it on to the lenders and the brokers as you're moving forward. So by simply simplifying it and making it easier for yourself, will make it easier for you to keep and continue to grow your portfolio by having good records and making it easy for yourselves and for your accountants.